Hello there folks, and welcome back to Star Citizen. So today we're going to be taking a look at the P52 Merlin, the snub-nose fighter interceptor support craft that has been added into the game. Well, technically it's been in the game for quite some time now in the colored gray box form underneath the constellation Andromeda. And you can kind of see it using some camera trickery, but now it's a completely separate flyable craft on its own. And we're going to be taking a look at it in all of its glory. And unlike the rest of the YouTubers out there, I'm not going to tell you if you should buy it or not. That's completely up to your own discretion. But if you do think that this is your cup of tea after watching this video, it is $20 on the RSI store. So it is the cheapest craft that you could possibly buy. It's also the smallest in weight, not necessarily smallest in length or width. Well, I think it is in width actually, but it's not the smallest in length, but it is definitely the smallest in total displacement and stuff like that. Or, you know, you could always just wait until the game comes out and buy it with in-game credits, and then you don't actually have to spend any money on it. Alright, well, enough about the purchasing options, because that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to tell you the facts about the ship itself. So let's get started. The P52 Merlin is the smallest ship in the game so far. Well, in most of its stats, actually it is slightly longer than the M50 Interceptor by 1 meter. So the length of this ship, the P52 Merlin, is 12 meters long, whereas in comparison, we're just going to compare this to a couple of other ships that are in its same class, I suppose you could say. Well, technically, this ship is in a class of its own because not many ships can be carried by the constellation Andromeda. Anyhow, the M50 Interceptor is another ship that you could compare it to because that's not a long-range fighter at all. In fact, it's a racing ship, but you can use it as a fighter. Also, the Mustang Beta is a very, very short-range... Well, it's not really a short-range ship because it does have a jump engine, but other variations of the Mustang are very, very short range. And the Aurora MR is another one of those smaller ships. So we're going to be comparing it with those three ships. So the P52 Merlin has a length of 12 meters, whereas something like the M50 Interceptor has a length of 11 meters. The beam, which is the width, the P52 Merlin has a width of 7.7 meters, which makes it the narrowest ship in the game. And it becomes even more narrow when you land. The wings actually fold up. We're going to be taking a look at that. The height of the ship is 2.2 meters, which makes it the shortest ship in the game, right next to the M50 Interceptor, which has a height of 3 meters, so it's 0.8 meters shorter than the M50 Interceptor. And the null cargo mass, so the mass of the ship, there is no cargo space aboard the P52 Merlin, so the heaviest this ship will ever be is going to be somewhere around 6,000 kilos. You can fit heavier guns and stuff to it if you want, but it's still going to be around that weight. You can't fit any cargo to it. And in comparison, the M50 Interceptor is actually quite a lot heavier. It's actually twice as heavy. Granted, the weight for the M50 Interceptor comes from the massive engines on board, and it's actually twice as heavy as the P52 Merlin. And the Aurora MR is actually well, not the Aurora MR, but the Aurora ES is actually the closest in weight. The Aurora MR is very close in weight to the P52 Merlin at 7,550 kilos. However, you can attach some cargo to that, whereas the 6,000 kilo limit on the P52 Merlin is as heavy as it's ever going to get. And as you can obviously tell, this is clearly a one-person craft. As we get in it, you'll see that there's only room for one person, but that's kind of to be expected. The power plant size is a very, very small size 1 power plant, and that's as large as you can get for the P52 Merlin. However, that's all that you'll ever need for such a small ship, as though it doesn't have a jump drive. The engines are fairly small. They are size 2 primary thrusters, and there are 2 of them, but that is quite alright for propelling such a light craft around. The factory engines are size 2 engines to start off with, which are nice, and it comes with 12 TR1 maneuvering thrusters, which is actually quite a lot. In comparison, all the other ships that we were talking about, the M50 Interceptor, the Mustangs, and the Auroras, only have 8 TR1 thrusters. So this is a very, very maneuverable ship, as we're going to see when we take it out for a drive. The maximum shield size is going to be size 2, which is adequate In fact, it's more than adequate for such a small and maneuverable ship, because the rest of the ships that we were talking about, they only have a size 2 shield as well, so you can fit all sorts of good shields on this if you so desire. However, the maximum power plant size is going to be a limiting factor for how much power and regen your shields are going to have, so that is something that you will have to take into account if you're going to be modifying your ship, which I'm sure you guys will be if you're going to be choosing this as your primary dedicated support fighter. And this probably won't make a good primary fighter, as it has incredibly short range, so something to keep in mind. Okay, so the weapons for the P52 Merlin are going to be quite adequate for the ship's size and power, and we always have to keep in mind that the factory power plant size is only ever going to be size 1, so you don't want to be putting too big of weapons on something that, well, can't power it. And the weapons on board, there are 3 class 1 mounts, so you're never going to get any gimbal mounts, and there are not going to ever be any missiles or bombs on board this ship, just purely fighter interdiction type weaponry. So standard, bog standard equipment for this, we have the M3A laser cannons on the wingtips, which are going to be ×2, so you have 1 on each wingtip. However, you can put whatever size 1 weaponry you so choose. And in the middle, we actually do have a size 2 T19 Tiger Streak projectile cannon, and that is actually going to be very, very nice. In fact, the Tiger Streak cannon actually works wonders, as you're seeing in the video clip here. It is, it works great because the ship is so maneuverable. It really doesn't require any gimbling mounts, because this is probably the most maneuverable ship in the game so far. I don't know, the Gladius is pretty good too, and so is the M50 Interceptor, but this thing, for the low price that you pay for it, is not a bad ship at all. Granted, the range is going to be quite limited, which is why you're going to need to stick with larger ships for your transportation from system to system, or probably even inter-system transportation. But anyhow, this has been the P52 Merlin, just a short little quick look at it. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you folks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.